And now an apology from the BBC. BBC News, as it covered initial reports that Israeli forces has entered Gaza's main hospital. We said that medical teams and Arab speakers were being targeted. This was incorrect and misquoted a Reuters report. We should have said IDF forces included medical teams and Arabic speakers for this operation. So we apologise for this error, which fell below our usual editorial standards.
BBC reporting fake news about Israel, but apologizing. Yes, the British Broadcasting Corporation airing an apology for saying Israel targeted medical teams and Arab speakers at Al Shifa Hospital, when the truth is the exact opposite. Of course, the IDF brought in medical teams and Arab speakers to help. Well, the novelty here that again the BBC took it back this time. So let's cross now to Tom Gross, Middle East expert and British political expert. Mr. Gross, well, too little, too late? Perhaps?
Yeah, yes, too little, too late. And also they buried the apology, so it's very hard for people to have noticed it. But also, look, this is just one drop. The BBC coverage during this conflict has probably been their worst ever. It's just disgraceful. And I'd like to remind people that 2 Western presidents have now complained about the BBC. President Herzog of Israel has complained, including on this channel, I-24, about the way they edited his interview with the BBC. They cut out the most important bits, and he officially complained to the BBC. And President Macron of France last week, 4 days ago, the BBC's Europe editor interviewed Macron. He made lots of various different points, including about a ceasefire. But the BBC online headline that went around the world was, Macron says Israel must stop bombing babies. This was an entirely twisted analysis or a summary of what Macron said. And the French Foreign Ministry have complained. So the BBC, which has masses of public money, huge resources to do a news gathering, much more than almost every other channel in the Western world, instead of using them for these resources, it is disgraceful. Look, even Al Jazeera a couple of days ago interviewed some Palestinian woman in a hospital in Gaza who said Hamas should leave us alone and get out of the hospital. They're Hamas gunmen here. Why aren't the BBC doing this? They have so much coverage. They are BBC forces. Anyone who owns a television in Britain must pay by law quite a lot of money for the privilege of having a TV license, including the BBC. So yes, they've apologized. They were forced to, because this morning's blood libel was outrageous and lots of people complained. It was the exact opposite of the truth. But that is just one thing. And one more point, the previous time with the hospital, when they alleged that Israel had bombed another hospital in Gaza 2 or 3 weeks ago, and in fact, Islamic Jihad rocket hit the hospital car park, their correspondent, they said he speculated wrongly, but he said, that's John Donaldson, he said something like, it's difficult to imagine anything else being this, because of the scale of the impact, other than a massive Israeli rocket. In fact, myself and other journalists I was speaking to that evening, we instantly knew it was very unlikely to be an Israeli rocket, because we looked at the same photos of the impact and we said that's a much smaller rocket. It's likely to be a Palestinian one.
Many international media outlets made this mistake that day, taking it back, but perhaps, again, the damage already done. Mr. Gross, really briefly, the government is taking an opposite stance to the one of the BBC, and yet perhaps a slight shift with the sacking of Suella Braverman as the Minister of Interior.
That's right. And also the Foreign Secretary has been moved. He was also very good on the war from Israel's point of view. David Cameron, the former Prime Minister, has been brought in. I mean, look, Cameron's okay, but his record on the Middle East was not the best, especially, for example, the intervention in Libya. And I suspect that this is not particularly good news for Israel, the replacement of both the Foreign Minister and Home Secretary, the Interior Minister.
We will wait and see. Tom Gross, thank you very much for this.